Google Sandbox. What is it? Why does it exist? And should you be concerned about it? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So let's get into this. Hi, my name's Carl and welcome to my channel. I'm an affiliate marketer here in the UK, and yes, we do exist. Affiliate marketing is alive and well in the UK. So if you've not seen my channel before, please consider subscribing and click that little bell icon, and then you'll be notified every time I bring a video out. So the Google Sandbox, a topic of discussion that is sometimes heated amongst affiliate marketers and entrepreneurs out there. Some people say it exists, some people say it doesn't. And today I'm going to give you my opinion on it. Now, there is no hard facts and evidence that this Google Sandbox exists, but in my opinion, it does. And I'll tell you why I believe it does. It may not exist in the form that you think it does, but I'm going to try and put it in the terms how I think about it and how I can explain it in the simplest manner possible. Imagine Google has a filter. Now, the sandbox technically is part of the algorithm. It's part of Google's program that judges the worthiness or authoritativeness of a website or a piece of content on the web. Now, it's basically a filter. Part of Google's algorithm, it's all made up of thousands and thousands of these little filters. Now, filters are, to put it simply, let's imagine a red cross in a box for no and a green tick in a box for yes. For those of you more computer minded, it might be either a 0 or a 1, some binary kind of number. I don't know, I'm not a computer expert, but basically there's a simple equation. It's a yes or a no. And in Google's algorithm, it's built up and made up of thousands, maybe even millions of these filters. Now, I've spoken to a lot of SEO consultants, and I've managed to actually speak to a couple of Google developers and people who actually work in Google's office, and they talk about filters all the time. Now, these filters can be for various different aspects of the internet, but to put it in our terms, kind of blogging, an example might be that one of Google's filters says if you have X amount of internal links within your piece of content, then you get a green tick in a box, or there's a number 1 applied to that filter, and that will then create a reaction. What that reaction might be, don't know, but it might basically say that if there is a 1 for internal links or a green tick, then that page gets some sort of authority or some recognition for having some internal links. Another one, to show you the negative side of it, could be that Google crawls the website and is looking for bad links externally, so linking off maybe to gambling sites or, adult sites, something like that. So that filter might then apply a red cross or a 0. So basically that filter has then said, okay, you've got some unsuitable content on this, so that filter has been activated and you've got a cross for that filter or a 0 for that filter, and again we're going to apply some action. Now, there's going to be thousands and thousands of these filters. Now, these will all affect the way Google sees your website. Now, in my opinion, it seems to be that this Google Sandbox is a number of filters that are applied to your website in the beginning, early stages of a website. Now, I'm sure this sandbox does continue throughout the entire age of the website, the lifespan of the website, but I believe it's more active right at the very beginning. Now, after speaking to, like say, some Google developers, apparently it sounds like this Google Sandbox was invented in around 2004. And the reason it was invented was to prevent spam and prevent reputable companies being outranked by spam content instantly. So if you can imagine not having the Google Sandbox, what could technically happen? So let's say you own a bricks and mortar shoe shop in Los Angeles, then you could have spent a ton of money with Google Ads and doing some proper outreach and building a community and getting your shop known for selling shoes in Los Angeles. And you could be doing really well, number 1 in the search. People want to know where to buy shoes in Los Angeles. They search the internet, they find your website or your business, and they come and visit you, purchase products, etc. Now that could have taken you years and years to build up that reputation and build that solid customer base. Now if there was no Google Sandbox or no filters applied to the SERP index, then I could come along and I could build a website also selling shoes in Los Angeles, create a load of backlinks, get a load of paid traffic to it, do some dodgy black hat SEO, and rank number one for that search term and outrank your shop within minutes or at least hours of doing that. And that would be really unfair, right? So Google put this filter sandbox in place to try and prevent things like this happening. So I always get asked, is Google Sandbox a good thing? And in my opinion, yes, it is. Especially, like I say, at the beginning for new websites. I believe that there is a reason and a purpose for the sandbox. Now, in my experience, it always takes around 5, 6, 7 months, that kind of time frame, to start climbing out of that Google Sandbox. Now, what does that mean? How do you get out of this Google Sandbox? Well, in my opinion, what Google's doing is it's testing your site over the 5-6 months period, and these filters have been applied to your website to hold you back from the SERP index, so it knows you are there, it knows your content's indexed, but it's applying these filters to see if your reputation is being built on solid foundations, so solid backlinks, solid interaction with the community, solid pieces of content. And the more and more you build that authority and you get more green ticks in the box or number ones applied to the filter, the quicker Google will bring you out of that sandbox and start releasing some of these filters, releasing the reins on your site and letting you come up the SERP index and be seen by more and more people. Now, to me, that makes absolute sense. It really does. I wouldn't want anybody to outrank me within minutes from creating a spammy website. None of us do. So there is a price to pay for the Google Sandbox, but in my opinion, it's a price worth paying. Now, if you take a look at the screen now, you can see a few examples. So these are examples of Google Analytics screenshots from various websites that I've launched. And you can see the majority, if not all of them on this screen, have all seen the same effect. I've had various levels of content added on these sites. Now, these are all new domains, all clean, fresh new domains, and they've all had roughly the same amount of content being placed across these websites over a period of around a year. And you can see that after month 5 and 6, we start to see the websites crawling out of this Google Sandbox. So technically, Google's releasing some of them filters that it's applied to our sites because we're now hitting some of the criteria that it's checking for. And it then releases the reins and lets you start crawling up that SERP index and into the top rankings. Now, I've seen this on every website I have launched. So, like I say, I can only give you my opinions and my facts and my data. And I have seen this. I've built several websites now, and I've had the exact same results on every single website. Now, that can't be a coincidence. It can't be talking to these SEO and Google developers that they all talk about filters. They all say filters are there, filters are applied, and there's millions of them. Who knows what they are, why they're there, who can say? But they're definitely there, it's part of the process. Now, another question I get asked all the time is, can you avoid the Google Sandbox? Well, buying an aged domain is technically one of the ways you could do it. The only reason I haven't done it, so I can't bring you too many facts on that, is because there's always a risk involved in buying an aged domain. Yes, if you can find an aged domain in your niche, that domain name fits your niche, it's been used in the past for a similar niche, and it's not had any penalties, and it's had good content, but maybe the domain just elapsed, the user didn't want to renew the website anymore for whatever reason, but it's an aged, clean domain. Sounds possible. You know, would Google then put you back in a sandbox? Well, yeah, it could do, because Google could also sandbox your content, your pieces of content. And I'm actually seeing now more and more, when I publish an article, it shoots straight up to page 1, it stays there for a couple of days, Google tests it out, maybe it's applied some filters, and then it drops away to page 4 or 5. And then it takes months and months for it to slowly come back up that listing. and eventually get back onto #1, and then hopefully it stays there. So there is possibly a Google Sandbox for the overall website, and there is possibly a Google Sandbox for a page level. Now, like I say possibly because none of us really know. Google has not released hard facts and data about this. So, John Mueller has indicated that websites in the beginning stages are judged and are criticized on the quality of the content and the community around it. So is that his way of saying the Google Sandbox exists? Again, we don't really know. So you could buy an aged domain and you could get out the sandbox earlier. My personal opinion is it's too risky. I don't want to put $5,000, $6,000 into content over a year or two, suddenly to realize that website has been used for something shady or it received a penalty several years ago, and then all that hard work is just wasted because Google slaps you with a penalty. And trust me, some penalties you can get rid of quickly, or Google can give you that slow death where your website just starts to decline. Nobody knows why. There's no penalty notices or anything, but you just know something's up. That could be a bad aged domain that you've bought. So for me personally, that risk is too much. So do I think Google Sandbox, if it exists, is a good thing or not? Yes, I believe it is a good thing. I like to build my website slowly, methodically, organically, and make sure that when I do hit the rankings that I deserve, that I stay there. I don't want instant gratification, success on a website, only for it to crash and fail a few months later. I'm in it for the long game, and if that means I have to spend 6 months proving myself to Google, then so be it. I'm happy to do that. So there you go. I hope you found that helpful. If you have any more questions about the Google Sandbox, head over to my community tab and leave your questions in my November Q&A post on my community tab, where I answer all your questions. If you are a paid member of my community, thank you very much, and you have your own personal Q&A session video to coming out, and you can get a more detailed or direct answer to your questions. It's a new feature I've added onto there, so we have a Q&A session for all my subscribers, and then we have a more private, in-depth, in-detailed Q&A session for my paid members as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.